Hello and thank you, ContentoNowTV, the studio, the show that hosts authors from all over the world in order to try to reveal the secrets and the stories of behind the scenes of the publishing process. We're so happy to have in our studio here with us Tsvi Bisk. Hello to you, Tsvi.
Good morning.
Good morning. If you could emphasize the moment that turned your life story into success, what moment would it be?
I think the moment that I met what turned out to be my best friend in my life and my mentor, Mordechai Nesiyahu, who at the time was the head of research of the Labor Party, when there was a Labor Party. We'll say Labor Party, Zichron Levrcha. And that sort of turned me around because he was the first person that recognized, I would call it, my unique intelligence. I'm not saying I'm super intelligent, but I have a kind of unique intelligence. So that,
he was mentoring, you're saying, mentoring what?
by letting I don't want to get into details of what he was into, but he was describing his particular philosophy of life. That was a combination of philosophy and physics. And I said, I didn't study physics and I didn't study philosophy. Why are you talking to me about it? He said, because you have an imagination.
Wow.
So that I do have. But I've tamed my imagination with logic. I'm also very logical. So those are really two turning points. When somebody recognized that my imagination has value, and then I tamed it with logic. And then the third turning point, I would say, when I got involved with an area called futurism, which is not predicting the future. I don't believe you can predict the future. We don't predict the future, we create it. What we created in terms of, there are two parallel lines that limit your imagination in real life. One are the laws of nature. I mean, I'm not going to invent going faster than light or anything like that. And the other one are global trends. There is no going back to the 19th century. There is no going back to the 1950s. And global trends are globalization, and global trends are communication, and global trends are individualism, and global trends, thank God, are constitutionalism, which started in the 17th century from Holland and England, and now is all over the world, including here, thank God.
And as a futurist, when you're writing the new book of The Suicide of the Jews, what are you futurizing in this book?
I'm futurizing alternative possible futures. That's what I'm always trying to futurize. And I'm saying in The Suicide of the Jews, if we continue on what we're doing, we are our own worst enemies. It's like the great cartoon Pogo. We have seen the enemy and he is us. I believe our own policies, especially vis-a-vis the settler movement and the territories, is more dangerous to the future existence of Israel than the Iranian bomb.
Even more.
Even more, yeah.
It's a rough title, The Suicide of the Jews, saying that by a Jew.
Yeah, because Iran is the neighborhood bully. Mm-hmm. And everything you say about Iran, I mean, here I would agree with Bibi on everything about Iran. I mean, they're not my cup of tea, as the British would say.
You're not emotionally in love.
No, and I think the left are idiots in terms of I always say that the right are stupid and the left are idiots. So where does that leave normal human beings, You can fight the neighborhood bully. It's very difficult to fight pancreatic cancer. And this is a self-induced pancreatic cancer. We have allowed our resentment, our justifiable resentment, at the hypocrisy and the double standard of the world, exemplified by the recent UNESCO decision that the Jews have no connection historically to the Temple Mount. No matter what you think about the old city, whether we should have conquered it and held on to it or compromised it, the Jews don't have any to the Temple Mount.
It's hilarious.
It's not even, it's disgusting. You would have how can you say it with a straight face? So our resentment is very justified. However, you cannot make rational policy based on an emotion of resentment. Now, this emotion is not unique to Israel. Resentment is at the basis of Brexit. Resentment is the basis of Donald Trump. Resentment is the basis of what's going on in the French and Dutch elections right now.
So perhaps this is an international trend.
Yes, because we are in a turning point, a paradigmatic turning point. Our whole political system, our whole political way of thinking, liberalism, socialism, capitalism, communism, whatever, these are all inheritances from the 18th and 19th century. In other words, our basic paradigm has been we're in the 21st century, folks. We're in the space age. And how are we going to redefine how we do politics? Now, the only thing that's relevant from that period, in my view, is constitutionalism, thank God. I mean, that human rights, the ongoing democratization of constitutionalist principles and constitutionalist rights, etc. But how does that impact on what we're doing today? In other words, we're fighting the battles of the past. I often say, before 1967, Zionism was a futurist enterprise. Herzl was a futurist. Old New Land, he's talking about what the future. That's a futurist scenario. Ben Gurion was a futurist. He once said in an argument with somebody, a Yiddishist who yelled at him, 1,000 years of history isn't important? And Ben Gurion responded, yes, 1,000 years of history is important. The next 1,000 years are more important. Jabotinsky was a futurist. Begin, half and half. He was the leftover but he was also, the 67 war is the turning point where all of a sudden the past, we settled here 3,000 years ago, so that's more important than Tel Aviv that's only 50 years old. That's ridiculous.
Now, when you're talking about the paradigm of resentment who is leading to a suicide of the Jews, could you share with us your perspective? If no change is going to happen in the policy, what would happen in, for instance, 10, 20, or 30 years from now?
Okay, I'll try to make it as simplify it.
Yeah.
I'm scared to death that the Palestinians are going to give up. We don't want a state. Annex us. Full rights. And then they'll quote Herzl. They'll quote Jabotinsky, who, by the way, towards the Arabs was the most liberal of the founding fathers, which is interesting because he has this impression of being a fascist. Every time there's a Jewish minister, there should be an Arab vice minister, and vice versa. Arabic is an official language. Everything should be written in Arabic. He'll quote Ben Gurion indirectly through the Declaration of Independence, which Ben Gurion didn't write, but he approved every comma and letter, which is full rights. He says, okay, annex us. We want full rights. 40-50% of the population will be non-Jewish. If you add in the ultra-Orthodox, 70% of the population will be non-Zionist. You already have this in Jerusalem. 80% of the population in Jerusalem is non- or anti-Zionist. The capital of the Zionist state. And I'm a Zionist, unashamed, unabashed, Jewish nationalist, self-determination for the Jews. I have no problem with that. A proud Zionist.
So this is what is going to happen.
This is likely to happen. What is going to happen, we have no idea. But I can only talk about high likelihood.
Now,
it's not a science.
Yes. Now, as a futurist, please offer, as in your book, as in your articles, as in your lectures, sort of a turning point now to create tomorrow a better future with a better topic of the cover of the non-suicide of the Jews. Okay. What should be done according to your understanding? Okay,
because I think that the right are stupid and the left are idiots. I think the left assuming that the Palestinians really want a state and want to live side by side with us. Maybe some of them do. But I know this is very unpopular, not politically correct. I still think most of them want to get rid of us. And they had the opportunity for state in 2000.
Yep.
They didn't take it. It started the second Intifada. And why did they not? Because to make the peace, they would have to give up the struggle and recognize the border. They said, no, we can't do that. In other words, they just wanted to see it as a stage in the destruction. That doesn't mean we have to stay where we are. Now, I'm going to use the Gaza separation as an example, even though people look at me, well, that was a failure. I don't think it was. I think it was a grand strategic success. It was an operational failure. And grand strategy is always going to trump operations, in my opinion. Grand strategy because we got rid of 1.5 million Arabs that we shouldn't be controlling. Operational because we didn't do it in a way that prevented them throwing rockets at us. And whether we could have done it or not, I don't know. I still would have done it, even given that. Now, what is the opportunity today? And this is ironic. Because of the Iran deal, the Sunni Muslim Arab countries are scared to death. And they are reaching out to Israel right at this point. Now, if we gave them an excuse, we would not only have diplomatic relations with Egypt and Jordan, I think we could have diplomatic relations with another 6 or 10 members of the Arab League, which would be a grand strategic success. Why? After the creation of the Strait, the grand strategy of the Arabs was to throw us into the sea. The grand strategy of us was to integrate peacefully into the Middle East. Our grand strategy has gradually been successful. Peace with Egypt, peace with Jordan, even the Oslo Accords, which were, I don't want to get into that, I don't think it was such a great failure in the long term. It's an operational catastrophe, but a grand strategic success. 30 or 40 countries renewed diplomatic relations with us. China, India, now our second biggest export market after. So, 18% of the West Bank is Shetach, right?
So you're saying, let's today internally decide what should be the line, the border line, and let's go back to keep this line?
No. I'm saying, if it's land for peace, say, okay, we'll give a little land, give us a little peace. Then we'll give us a little land, give us a little bit. What the final borders, I don't want to talk about.
I understand.
Because the minute you do that, you're in trouble with the world and you're in trouble with yourself.
Exactly.
And we argue with ourselves all the time. Like if we went Shetach, which is where most of the Arabs, which is complete Palestinian control, is only 18% of the West Bank. Okay, we'll say, we'll make it up to 30%. But we want Morocco and Oman and Kuwait to make peace with us. Okay, another 10%, we want Tunis and we want Qatar. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And any time that you feel that they're not fulfilling, now you're doing two things that are grand strategic. One, you're getting rid of more and more hostile Palestinian that you don't want to control anyway, and which is morally corrupting for us. It is morally corrupting for us to control other people that don't want us. We do things that we shouldn't be doing. But I wouldn't even argue it on the sense of morality, because it's not arguing on a sense of morality to people who are filled with resentment doesn't work. I would say it's just better for us. And we're getting more relations with the Arab world. Because they realize they can't depend, the Arabs, they can't depend on America in the long run, and they can't depend on Europe in the long run. Who can they depend on? Us. Why? Because we live here. We have no choice, not because we love them. That would be my approach.
Tsvi Bisk, anything about yourself that no one knows?
That I dance salsa?
Salsa.
Every week? Twice a week.
Twice a week?
Yeah.
With whom?
With my present wife.
I see.
Michaela, yeah.
And while you dance salsa, is it something that, what feeling that it...
Joy.
Let's go for
You know,
joy.
Israel's become a world power in salsa. I know people don't know that. No, really.
Yeah?
Yeah, they have all sorts of events here, and experts come from all over the world to run the sadnaot, to run workshops and things.
That's amazing.
And they come, these guys, Latins come and they say, you're not Latin, but you really dance like Latins. Because, you know,
the movement.
Yeah, the Israeli chutzpah, it's the macho, you know, it's like, yeah.
Tsvi Bisk, I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
If you have any question regarding the book of the suicide of the Jews that you want to invoke, that you want to say, that you want to write, please don't hesitate in Facebook, in our website, in www.ContentoNow.com, to the Facebook of Tsvi. Anything, we'll be more than happy to be in contact with you, with Tsvi. And if you have any story regarding your publishing process, please don't hesitate. We'll be more than happy to hear, to listen, and to advise. Thank you for joining ContentoNowTV. Thank you, Tsvi.